Does that at all change the landscape for the Republican caucus in the House when it comes to debating funding for the war in Ukraine?
Well, I think it's always important to have the Speaker of the House voice his strong opinion for Ukraine. I think that does impact the rest of our conference and the House and the Senate. I know Kevin's always been there. I think after he talked to President Tsai as well, the president of Taiwan, that message was relayed to him very strongly. I know when I was in Asia, the leaders in Japan, South Korea, and President Tsai made it very clear that what happens in Ukraine directly impacts the situation in the Pacific as well, because you've got a threat now not just to Europe, but also to the Pacific.
What do you make of former President Trump's most recent comments? He said that he used to get along very well with President Putin. He also said that he thinks, quote, ultimately, Putin will conquer Ukraine. Is that the right rhetoric that the former president, the leader at the moment of your party, should be projecting?
Yeah, I'm not familiar with that remark. I know a lot of his advisors are supportive of our efforts. I've been very critical of the administration, though, in terms of not giving them the weapons they need fast enough. And that's why it's dragged out as long as it has. But, Annmarie, you're going to see a counteroffensive very soon now that's going to take place. And I think there's going to be a lot riding on the line with this counteroffensive. If Ukraine is successful in the eyes of the American people and the world, I think it will be a game changer for continued support. If they are not, that also will have an impact in a negative way, though. My prediction is they will try to go down and hit the land bridge in Crimea and have a very dramatic, bold strategy that then would push back Russian aggression, possibly then call for a ceasefire, after which we could then maybe have negotiations to finally resolve this.
Mr. Chairman, I want to ask you about President Biden's visit today with his Philippine counterpart at the White House, an awfully important conversation as we consider security in the region here. How important will our relationship with the Philippines be in addressing threats from China?
Extremely important. Remember, we have a forward operating base now, an agreement with the Philippines to operate, both air, land, and sea out of the Philippines. We have that in Guam. We have the 7th Fleet in Japan. We have a presence in South Korea. We also have AUKUS. We have, Australia and the UK. These are really what would be the partners, if you will, or allies in the event of communist Chinese aggression. But we don't have a NATO in the Pacific, and that's an important distinction. And that's why I think the deterrence is so important. The weapons I signed off on 3 years ago have yet to go into Taiwan. When I met with President Tsai, she very much would like to have those today. And I urge the State Department to get the weapons in as a deterrence for peace, because right now the deterrence is not very strong.
We also have the president today telling reporters that he's going to send a presidential trade delegation to the Philippines. So Joe is talking about the military. Now the president is also talking about a trade delegation. When it comes to shoring up allies outside of China, is this how it's going to be militarily and on the economic front?
Right, and that's a great point. This is not all about military. We need to strengthen our economic ties in the region. With the Pacific Island nations, our security ties, as well. And I think trade. I haven't seen a whole lot in terms of trade come out of this administration. I know they are negotiating a trade agreement with Taiwan, which would be a very important step forward in the region. So I think you're spot on. What we need to do right now is get these partners aligned, both economically, but also militarily, and also plan for deterrence, so we don't have to hopefully have an invasion, take place. But if, God forbid, it does, we can't afford not to have those discussions today.
Congressman, when you come home, it's going to be all about the X date. We learned from the Treasury today that the X date falls, in their view, on the 1st of June. And we're hearing now from the White House, a source at the White House telling us that President Biden has reached out to Speaker McCarthy and all of the leaders on Capitol Hill, in fact, to meet on this. Do you think Congress can get this done with the administration by the 1st of June? Or do you need to think about suspending the debt limit and buying more time?
Well, we passed out of the House, I think, a very responsible package that caps spending at 2022 levels. That's discretionary non-defense spending, and savings of about $1.5 trillion. And then we do raise the debt ceiling. I think that's at least a starting point for discussions. I haven't seen anything come out of the Senate, or have I seen the president make any real proposals. So I don't think anyone wants to see us default on our debt. And I think any economist will tell you that's a bad scenario for the economy. We're worried about our financial system right now. You had another systemic risk with one of the banks out there. And we're worried about the economic vibrancy of this nation. And defaulting on the debt is not the right step. But also, we have $32 trillion of debt out there. That is unconscionable and immoral to hand that down to the next generation. So we believe as Republicans, we've at least did something about this. We governed, we got a bill passed. So let's go ahead and get this thing fixed.
Congressman, not only are you the chairman of the Foreign Affairs Committee, so I know you're constantly in discussion with foreign officials, but you're also at the Milken Conference, and I'd love to know, what are you hearing from people on the ground there and from your foreign contacts about how nervous they are about the U.S. hitting the debt ceiling?
Right. I don't think any foreign nation would like to see that happen. I know they don't think it's in our best interest, and they sure don't think it's in their best interest. Our economies are all intertwined, and we would not want to send a shockwave around the globe if we default on our debt. So this is a very serious issue, and we have to be responsible, not irresponsible, in the way we deal with it. So again, I don't think either side wants us to see a default, nor do I think any other nation would. Maybe perhaps our foreign adversaries would like to see that. But as I see this dangerous world we're in with Russia, China, Iran, North Korea lining up against the free West, this is not a time to be playing games with our national debt. But having said all that, at some point in time, we're going to have to talk about the real driver of spending, and that's mandatory spending. What we deal with is only 1/3 of the budget, of the appropriations. 2/3 is on auto glide path. And it's not sustainable, and everybody knows that in Washington, but politicians are too afraid to talk about it to try to find a real solution to that problem.